to my channel. Today we are making an apple pie. I'm so excited. I've made this recipe 2 or 3 times and we absolutely love it. It's made a little bit differently than your average apple pie and it's super easy and simple to make, so let's get started. It should be a quick recipe for you guys. You're going to need some Granny Smith apples. I prefer Granny Smith. You can use other kinds, but some apples do better in pies like this than others. But you're going to need 6 to 7. As you can see, I have a much larger bowl than that here. But these are organic, and so they're tiny. So I'm going to be using more than that. But if you buy the normal ones that are like this big, then 6 to 7. But I'll be using a little bit more. Basically, you just want to fill your pie plate and have a nice mound to it, because they will kind of soak it up and shrink down in the baking. Half a cup of water, 6 tablespoons of flour, 1 cup of granulated sugar, 1 cup brown sugar, and 1 teaspoon of cinnamon. My dishwasher's beeping, sorry about that, guys. And you do want to keep the flour separate from the sugar and the sugars and cinnamon. 1 cup of unsalted butter, so I've got 2 sticks here. And then you're going to need a double pie crust. Girl, I am making it easy. I have these in my freezer. I pulled one out and thawed it, and I'll be using this, but you are more than welcome to make it from scratch. I have done that before, but I'm just not going to be doing that today. I'll be using this maybe in another video. If you guys want to see that, I will do that. And so also I wanted to show you guys this, the pie pan I'm going to be using, and these cute little pie crust cutters. The pan, it is stoneware and it's by Pampered Chef. It was a gift from my mom. I've had it for a few years, and this is the only pan I've ever made this recipe in. I'm sure you could use other pans, but this is what I love to use it in. It's beautiful. It's like table ready to stick it on your table and make it look really cute. And I sell Pampered Chef, so I will leave my website right here and down in the description box if you want to buy this exact pan. Then you'll be able to do that. And I know they make it in other colors. I know for sure they make it in gray, because I've thought about buying it in gray, so I have 2, because I've kind of got more of the gray aesthetic now, and I used to have more of the red. So this is the pan I will be using, and then I picked these up this year and I left them in the packaging because I wanted to show you guys what they looked like in the packaging if you went to the store and were looking for them. I found these at Walmart in the fall decorations. I know it's after fall when this goes up and they probably don't have this out on the shelves anymore, but I'm sure you can buy it on Amazon still, and I'll even try to go the extra step and find it on Amazon for y'all and link it for you if you want to do this. Basically, sorry, my dogs in the dishwasher are beeping, it's real life here, guys, but basically you just take these and cut out pieces of the pie crust and lay it along here. So just to make it kind of cute, I've never done it before. We'll see how that goes in this video. And let's go ahead and put it all together. So Sean is peeling the apples behind me, so you'll hear him doing that. He's so sweet and has offered to help, and I will take his help gladly. So over here I've got the cup of butter melted in a saucepan. You don't want to turn this up on high and do this. Butter can burn, so just do it medium, low. Alright, so I've got that melted in here. It's at a 4 out of 10 on my temperature to give you an idea of how high it is. So here I've got the 6 tablespoons of flour. This is why you wanted the flour separate than the sugar. I'm just going to start working this in here. And you guys, this stuff is going to get hot. It's going to smell so good. You're going to want to stick your finger in it and lick it. And whatever you do, don't. It is going to be piping hot and it will burn you bad. So I guess it's not super paste, but it's just, it thickens it up. So that's thickened up like that. So now what I'm going to do is turn the heat up to about 6, 6.5. And now we are going to add our sugar and our water. So like I said, half a cup of brown, half a cup of white, and 1 teaspoon of cinnamon. Just get that in there. We don't want it to plop. I'm just going to pour a little bit in and work it. There we go. So there's that. And before all of this starts burning, I'm going to go ahead and add that half a cup of water. And we're going to get this all worked in together. And this is where it starts to smell so good. And then this mixture we're going to bring up to a boil. And then as soon as it comes up to a boil, we're going to reduce the heat and bring it down to a simmer. And then we're going to simmer it for 5 minutes. You don't need to worry about stirring it the whole time. Just stir it until it's smooth. And you know that none of that sugar is clumped up in there. Just make sure you got the bottom really well. There's nothing sticking on the bottom. There's no sugar down there. Then you can just let that sit. Keep an eye on it. You don't want to leave this stuff unattended. So you want to stay close and stir it periodically. You don't need to sit there and stir it the whole time. You can see it starting to bubble up. So I'm just going to make sure that it gets nice and hot. Let me zoom in for you guys if I can. There we go. That gives you guys a really good view of it. So I would call this a boil. So you don't need it popping and doing all that kind of stuff. So I'm just going to stir it up. I'm going to reduce the heat. See how it's doing that? So I'm reducing the heat. I got it to a 3.5 out of 10. I'm going to set my timer for 5 minutes. And just let this simmer, keeping an eye on it, stirring it periodically. And while this is going, I'm gonna start on the pie crust and show you that. Alright guys, so you can see Sean working on the apples. I'm going to do this while the caramel is still simmering. So like I said, I'm doing store-bought pie crust, which makes this part extremely easy. So I'm just going to gently unroll this to try not to tear it. And just work this into my crust, or my pan I mean. Work the crust into my pan. So it just looks like that. Pie crust is super easy, makes it look a lot easier than if you were doing it the homemade crust. So basically the apple's just gonna go straight into this. Pour these babies in here. They're turning brown. That's just what apples do once you peel them. If you didn't want that to happen, you could put them in a bowl with some water and some lemon juice, and they wouldn't do that, but I don't care that they're brown. They're not going bad. They're just the color changes. So I don't fix them in here any special way. I just kind of pour them in like you saw me do, and if there needs like a couple spaces that are obviously not filled, then I'll push them down in there that way, but just leave them like that and that's fine. So my timer just went off telling me that it had been 5 minutes, and I figured really quick before I take it off the stove I would show you what I consider simmering. So this is what I would consider it to be simmering. So it's still bubbling, but it's not happening really quickly. It's not popping, bubbles aren't coming up really quick, but it is bubbling, and this is what I would consider to be a simmer. So it did this for 5 minutes. And you can see here that it is thickened up some, which is what we want. So if we pull this up, you can tell that it kind of drips off the whisk a little bit slower. And then this is piping hot right now. So once it kind of cools off, it's going to be even thicker. And we're going to pour this over our apples. So here we have everything we need. This is how many apples we're using. We didn't count. We just did it till it was about this full. I wanted to show you guys the side of it there so you could really see how much was in there. So it is kind of mounded. This is the caramel sauce, and it has not cooled that long, and look how thick it already is, you guys. Can you see that? Oh my gosh. And this does not cool very quickly, so it is still really hot. Don't stick your finger in here, guys. So just got that, and I do have something under this so it's not sitting right there on my counter. So what we're going to do now is pull our pie crust right here. Try not to kick the tripod leg. I'm going to take this and I'm going to try to pour, it's not an exact science, but I'm going to try to pour about half of it over these apples. Trying to make sure it stays in the pie pan and doesn't go over the edge too much. I have this sitting out ahead of time. Tater stuck his little paws up here and licked it, so I cut that piece off. And what I like to do with this pie, you could do a full cover on it where you just take this, lay it on top, cut 4 little slits, that's just fine. You can also do fancy lattice work, which is great too. I honestly don't have very much patience and don't want to spend a lot of time doing it. So I do a variation of lattice work, but I don't weave it all in together. So I'm just going to take a pizza cutter and cut this into some strips. I'm gonna see if I need this part, because I was hoping to have enough for this. If I don't, it's okay. So, just gonna take that, push that on there. Take another piece, kind of stretch it out, stick that on there. And another piece, this needs to be a little longer, and stick that on there. And I am kind of pushing it to the pie crust that was already on there. And I want a smaller piece to go on this side. Take that. There we go. And then I'm going to go the other way, taking the longest piece and kind of sticking it right there. Sticking that piece right there. And sticking that piece right there. Fold this over. There we go. Trying to make it look kind of pretty. I'm not, I know some people make pies and it's like a work of art. Not that person, you guys. I would like to, and maybe someday I'll try to do that, but this is where I'm at right now. And I'm okay with that. So, normally I would just pop it, well, I'd finish this, but then I'd pop it in and go about my business that way without doing any more of the pie crust work. But since I bought these cute little crust cutters, I'm just gonna do a little experimenting and see how it looks when I'm done. So I'm just gonna take some of these little leaves and put them around the edge, just kind of spaced out, one here, one there, kind of thing, like that. These might just look like swollen up lumps of pie crust after it bakes, I don't know. So, like I said, I've never actually done this before, but I saw these little cutters at Walmart, and I was like, oh, that's cute. And I've made this pie around this time of year, I don't know, for 2 or 3 years. So, and this recipe is from a blog I found on Pinterest. So I'll leave the recipe down below, but I will also leave a link to that blog so that you guys can go and check that out. So, a tip with any pie, but, well, yeah, I'll go ahead and put it under the pan first. A tip for any pie, but especially this pie, is to bake it on this, because this like caramel mixture bubbles and oozes in the oven, and it will probably drip. And I would much rather have it drip on this and clean it off of this than have it drip in the bottom of my oven and have to clean it off of that. So, we have the other, oh my gosh, you guys, look at this part of it. It's like so sticky and gooey. Oh my gosh. Okay. So, it's starting to thicken up, so I'm just going to give this a quick whirl. Looks so good, you guys. Look how beautiful that is. So, we're going to take this, and we're going to pour it over the top of this. Again, if it goes over the side, it's not the death of anyone. But I would try to keep it from doing that. Just kind of fill in those little cracks. Pour it over. This is why you want it on a pie pan in the oven. Because you don't want to cook this burnt on sugar out of your oven. And you could do this with any pie, but I would really recommend doing it with this pie. Get all that delicious sauce out of here. You know that once this cools off a little bit more, which it might already be cool enough, I'll be licking this pan. Me and my husband both will. So then what I think I'm gonna go ahead and do is come over here, grab a little spoon, just kind of do this to the top of this pie. Kind of make sure this sugar's caramels kind of spread out. Now, what makes this pie a little bit different than most apple pies, I would say, is that a lot of apple pies, while the apples are dry, is whenever you would kind of almost like shake them up in a dry mixture. And this, you obviously melt it all and make this caramel sauce, which is so beyond anything else that you guys will ever try. Be careful when you're rubbing the spoon on it because the pastry is softened because of this warm caramel sauce, so it'll tear easier. But I just wanted to do that and kind of make sure it's not all sitting on the top. Now this is ready to go in the oven. You're gonna put it in at 425 for 15 minutes, and then you're gonna turn the heat down to 350 and cook it for 35 to 45 minutes. You just wanna see that beautiful crust and it turn kind of brown, and I will show you guys what it looks like then. And you also wanna let it sit for, after you pull it out of the oven and it's finished baking, you want to let it sit for at least 4 hours before you cut into it, because it really needs to make it solidify and come together, because you don't want it to be soupy in the middle. And then, but you preferably would want to let it sit overnight, but at least for 4 hours. So plan to make this ahead. This is a great make ahead dessert. So I'm gonna go ahead and pop it in the oven. All right guys, here is it in all of its glory. I left it in a tad longer than 45 minutes at the 350, maybe 50 minutes or so. I just kept a really close eye on it and was making sure that these little bits didn't burn, but I wanted to make sure that it really cooked good. So as you can see, it bubbled over. Can we show them this side real quick? Let's show them all that bubbliness over. And that is why you want to put it on a pan like this. It's super important. One of my little leaves fell off, so make sure that you stick them in there good. And some of them came out better than others. Here, let's zoom out a little bit for me. So you can see this one came out really cute and looks like a leaf, and this one did. This one, let me turn this around for you. This one looks a little pathetic over the side, which may partially be because it pushed it over. But make sure you stick them in there really good and connect them. That one fell out completely. But it looks really good. I kind of learned a little bit of technique for the leaves next time I want to do that. And you can even do a toothpick and kind of like push down in the middle and do the little sides if you really want to get fancy. But yeah, so it is done baking. I'm gonna let it sit and cool off right here on this baking pan, and then once it's cool, I'll just cool to room temperature. I'll cover it in some foil and wait till tomorrow to cut it. Hope you guys all have a blessed day. Don't forget to check the description box down below. If you want to buy this pie pan, then visit my website, which I'll leave right here for you. And I'll talk to y'all later. Bye-bye.